It's Shawn Lamb here for Streaming Media Producer. I'm here with Dan, the CEO of BirdDog, and we're here to talk about three of these cameras here. So this is the X1, you have the X1 Ultra, and you have the Maki.
So the X1 is the first in our X series of cameras. X1's got a huge amount of features in there though. Probably the most obvious one is the big tally light up front. We're calling that the Halo tally. It's very, very easy to see. At the moment it's bright white for the show, but it goes red for when you're on program or green when you're on preview automatically. One thing it really does though is draw your eye into the camera. And that's really important when you're doing any kind of live production to really engage with the audience. So it's actually more deliberate than just looking cool. It's also daylight visible, so it's a very bright LED light. From there, we've got the first camera out in the world which has got an e-ink display on the side. Okay. So e-ink you would have seen in things like Kindles and that kind of thing. It's a display that stays on all the time. So if you label up the camera, even if it's turned off, it's still got that display on there, which is actually really convenient for any kind of portable production. You don't have to have gaffer's tape with Sharpies written on there about which camera is which. You've got it already put on there.
Useful things like the IP address.
IP address, absolutely. And actually, we're going to bring out a feature which allows you to put your own logo on there as well. So if you're a production company, you can put your own logo on that display.
Nice touch.
Which is pretty neat. We've got some other really cool stuff. It has AI-based tracking, and this is a new feature in the X1 that we haven't had before. So on-camera AI tracking and also auto-framing. So it will do, if you've got multiple people in a shot, it'll have them all aligned up. So it'll have everyone zoomed in. But if you can also focus on a single person, and the camera will track them. And we've got some really smart ways of making sure that it's always staying on the right person and switching between people, which we can do with NDI control as well.
Okay.
The last little party trick, which I think is an amazing feature in a camera, is it's not only a camera, but it's also an NDI decoder. That means that on top of being able to send your camera video over the network to be able to use in a production, you can send a video back to the camera, which might be a teleprompter, it could be a confidence monitor, and the HDMI out of the camera can be displaying that. So it becomes truly integrated just with one cable.
Wow, that's a really neat feature. You wouldn't expect at this kind of a price point, which is, how much is this one here?
So the X1 is $995 US. So again, it's packed with features, and we use exclusively Sony sensors, so the image quality is fantastic out of this thing. So it really is groundbreaking in terms of what it can do for the price point, but also for the size of it.
So what size is the sensor on this one?
So this one here is it's a 1/2.8 sensor, so it's fairly common size. But being a brand new camera, it's actually got the very latest Sony sensor in there. So it's a really high quality image that you get out of that, which allows you, like I said, with the X1, that'll do up to 1080p at 60 frames.
And then the connectivity here. So I mean, it's an NDI camera. So traditional Ethernet, but also.
Also, we have Wi-Fi, so it's Ethernet. It has power over Ethernet, so if you're using that in a regular wired production, one cable and you're done. But with Wi-Fi, it means that you can also use that completely untethered. The camera can be battery powered as well, so you can have completely wireless. Where I see this being really interesting is things like maybe an event center, or if you're doing some kind of corporate event in a ballroom and you need a camera over the other side of the room. You can just take the camera and put it there. Otherwise, you'd have troubles with cable lengths or with trip hazards and things like that. So NDI being network-based, and these cameras with NDI HX3 allow you to send extremely low latency over a Wi-Fi network, and it actually works amazingly well.
So which Wi-Fi protocols are supported?
So this supports, it's regular Wi-Fi. It's Wi-Fi 5 that we're using. Wi-Fi 5 is actually a really great middle ground in the fact that it has really quite a decent range. And it has enough bandwidth for what we need. So we're finding it's a really good balance in terms of what sort of technology is out there.
Baseband connectivity, you talked about the HDMI output. What other inputs or outputs are on there?
So this camera will work as a USB camera. You can use it with Zoom and Teams. So it can be worked just as easily in a boardroom for AV communication as it can be for a live production. It also has HDMI, and that can be switched to either be the camera output if you're doing a regular baseband production, or, like I said before, that can be a decoder that it has on there.
So a single HDMI that's either in or output, depending how you configure it.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right.
And then on top of that, we have our serial control as well. So again, if you're using more of a traditional production, you can still control it like any other PTZ camera. You can take the HDMI out and use it as you would normally. But of course, it's got the bells and whistles of all that network connectivity as well.
Yes. All right, moving up the chain, the X1 Ultra. I mean, the Ultra meaning 4K.
That's right, yep.
What other differences are behind the scenes there?
So really, it's they're both part of the same family. So everything I've spoken about there, including the decoding functions, and the e-ink display, and the tally lights are all identical. The difference is that the X1 Ultra is UHD. So it will do up to UHD 30 frames a second.
Okay.
And that's for both the encoding and also for the decoding as well. So it's the ultra version of the X1. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Maki Ultra here. So how does this one work? How is it different than the X1s?
So I'm really proud actually of our whole product line, and you'll see as we move along, this is the beginnings of a new product line as well.
Okay.
Keeping in mind that we're announcing and shipping kind of with that strategy. So as we announce more, they'll become shipping available. The Maki is designed to be a complementary camera for live productions. It's a box camera or a zoom camera, so you can get this in either a 12 times or a 24 times zoom. Sorry, 12 times or 20 times zoom. It's a 4K 60 exclusively, so it'll do everything, all the frame rates up to that, but it will do 4K 60. And with the halo tally on the front, it still integrates really well into any kind of live production.
Okay.
But it's also got a neat set of buttons on the side as well, so you can actually control it, adjust your framing and things very easily just by pressing the buttons. We've gone a long way in terms of cameras. We went, traditional cameras have got buttons all over them.
Yeah.
We went to PTZs, which have got no buttons and had no screens. We started to add some screens, and actually in this case, for this type of camera, it makes sense to have a couple of buttons on there to just help you reframe a little box camera shot.
All right. So this is a Z camera, if you will, right?
It's
Zoom
a Z
only,
camera,
and
absolutely.
these
Yep.
are PTZs.
Correct.
So you said 12 or 20 times zoom.
That's
so
right.
is that based on the resolution, or are there actually two
There's
models?
actually two different models,
Okay.
and that's the same price. So these guys are $12.95 is their retail price. The 12 times zoom, the reason why that exists is for smaller spaces. Things like some of them are used in meeting rooms is a great space, but also in security applications or in surveillance type areas. Maybe if you're working with equipment where you've got to have a wider field of view.
Okay.
So the 12 times one is a wider field of view at just over 70 degrees.
Okay.
But then you've got the 20 times one, which has got a much longer zoom, which is better for stage environments.
Yeah.
So all the features are the same. It's just one's got a wider field of view, and one's got a longer zoom.
And what's the widest field of view on the 20 by?
On the 20 times zoom, it's about 60 degrees. So
Okay.
yeah.
And then the zoom on the X1 and X1 Ultra.
So the X1 is a 20 times zoom as well.
Okay.
So X1 will at 1080p will go up to 20 times zoom, and the X1 Ultra is a 12 times zoom.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Dan. This has been Shawn Lamb for Streaming Media Producer at NAB 2024 here with Dan at the BirdDog booth.